Happy Monday, y'all. Hope you had a good weekend. So, a lot of talk about tyranny right now. If you've been paying attention to the news, you're seeing protests at Huntington Beach. You're seeing protests at our own Capitol and any other protests that might be going on. I wouldn't be surprised as people are getting fed up about our freedoms. Many of our freedoms being placed on hold during this coronavirus time that we're in. Now, whether or not it's a good thing for our freedoms to be placed on hold, that is not for this devotional to discuss, okay? But because the word tyranny is being used a lot right now, because it's being highlighted, I think it'd be well for us to have a lesson and a discussion and a pondering on the concept of tyranny. Hopefully, it will equip us to discern tyranny as it approaches. As Seventh-day Adventists, it is in our prophetic message that, yes, indeed, it will approach. So I think it would be well for us to have a little review on tyranny today, if you're all right with that. All right? So, let's begin with a formula. The formula goes like this. Sin plus power equals tyranny. It's as simple as that. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. Sin plus power equals tyranny. You have probably heard the saying that goes, absolute power absolutely corrupts. Okay? And I believe that's true and accurate and very biblical. Because here's the thing. Paul discusses in Romans chapter 7 that we have sin in our members. Okay? So now if you were to sprinkle power onto that sin, that stuff that's within us, then guess what? It grows into something yucky called tyranny. You don't want unchecked sinful nature with all the power. It's a very bad formula, and we see it, we witness it all over the world. There are a lot of tyranny going on all over the place. Okay? So, the chapter about the Pilgrim Fathers in the Great Controversy starts out in England. Okay? It discusses how England was on board with the Reformation. Only problem is, when they fled Papal Rome and they fled tyranny, ideologically at least, and spiritually, they didn't flee very far. Okay? And so what happened is, England began to stagnate when it came to Christianity, when it came to the church. And because of that stagnation, they began many of the practices of Papal Rome. And some of those practices they never let go of, and eventually resorted to the tyrannies of Papal Rome, the persecution, the death penalty, and all these kind of things if you don't align yourself with the religious policies of England. So, many of the who are to be the pilgrims to eventually flee England, they began looking around for other places to flee to. Okay, so they tried a couple of places not too far away, but when those areas didn't really work out, they set their sights on the New World, America. And so, with that, they knew that it was a treacherous journey. They knew that they had to cross the Atlantic Ocean in order to get there. But they knew that was pretty much the only option left, as England is no longer habitable to anybody who truly wants to follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Okay? So, before they are to depart to the New World, these pilgrims, their pastor, who couldn't go with them on this journey for whatever reason, still wanted to have words with them before they departed. And those words are recorded in this chapter. I want to share them with you. Bear with me. It's a little lengthy, but I think it's worth it. All right, here we go. The pastor goes on to say to them, "Brethren, we are now ere long to part asunder. And the Lord knoweth whether I shall live ever to see your faces more. But whether the Lord hath appointed it or not, I charge you before God and his blessed angels to follow me no farther than I followed Christ. If God should reveal anything to you by any other instrument of his, be as ready to receive it as ever you were to receive any truth of my ministry. For I am very confident the Lord hath more truth and light yet to break forth out of his holy word. And he goes on, for my part, I cannot sufficiently bewail the condition of the Reformed churches, who are come to a period in religion and will go at present no farther than the instruments of their Reformation. The Lutherans cannot be drawn to go beyond what Luther saw, and the Calvinists, you see, stick fast where they were left by that great man of God, who yet saw not all things. This is a misery much to be lamented, for though they were burning and shining lights in their time, yet they penetrated not into the whole counsel of God. But were they now living, would be as willing to embrace further light as that which they first received. Remember your church covenant, in which you have agreed to walk in all the ways of the Lord, made or to be made known unto you. Remember your promise and covenant with God and with one another, to receive whatever light and truth shall be made known to you from his written word. But withal take heed, I beseech you, what you receive for truth, and compare it and weigh it with other scriptures of truth before you accept it. For it is not possible the Christian world should come so lately out of such thick anti-Christian darkness, and that full perfection of knowledge should break forth at once. In other words, what he's saying to his parishioners as they're heading off to the new world, okay, he realizes that it would be such a waste to travel so far away to get away from this anti-Christian darkness, only to fall into it in the new world. And so he basically says to them, look, you know what you're fleeing from. You're not fleeing from papal Rome. You're fleeing from England, who has stagnated into papal Rome. Don't do the same thing. Don't stagnate into tyranny. Okay? So, how do you not stagnate? Well, this pastor says to his parishioners as they're about to leave and embark upon their journey, he says, look, hold to your covenant. You will follow the Lord as far as he'll take you. And then if he decides to lead you further, keep following him. And he points out Luther and Calvin and how they led us, great lengths into the Reformation. But they died not seeing the whole revelation of God, and would have continued further could they have. And so because their followers didn't go any further, eventually stagnation set in. And so this pastor is very wise. I believe he's led by the Holy Spirit when he says these words to his parishioners. Look, when you get over there, don't settle in, okay? No matter how far the Lord has led you, he'll lead you further. And be ready for him to lead you further. And friends, my Seventh-day Adventist brothers and sisters that are watching this devotional, some good lessons for us to keep in mind, especially as we see ourselves as a continuation of the Reformation. It can be easy to become satisfied with the wonderful things that the Lord has revealed to us and just simply bask in it. But never forget, no matter how far the Lord has led us, he'll lead us further. And I think this is a great lesson for us to say to ourselves, or at least remind ourselves, that we ought to be continuously looking for indications of God's guidance further. It may feel like we're in a quarantine right now where we're supposed to stay put and stay still, but I assure you, God is leading you right now. God is leading to you today to go further. Okay? So, lesson number 1 on tyranny is sin plus power equals tyranny. Lesson number 2, sin can be a result of stagnation. Okay? Once we stagnate, and that's what we've learned from this pastor's words, from the example of England, because they stagnated, sin began to fester, and then when power was added to it, tyranny happened. Okay? So just like coming over to America, We do not want to stagnate, okay? Because once power gets added to that, then horrible things happen. And guess what? Power does get added. It does get sprinkled onto this. And if you're thinking to yourself, okay, so we just got to watch. I mean, so often we try to watch, the leaders of our nation and determine, okay, who's a tyrant? Who's likely to take this country southward? I want to suggest to you a third lesson in this, and this is more of something to contemplate, something to consider here. Okay, we as Seventh-day Adventists, we are students of we're students of the Bible, but Revelation 13 is something that is very familiar to us as a people and as a movement. Revelation 13 consists of two beasts. All right, we have the beast that we believe points to Papal Rome, and then we have the second beast that we believe points to the United States of America. It's this beast that comes out of the earth. All right, something to keep in mind. All the beasts throughout Bible prophecy, when you look at Daniel 7 and when you come to Revelation 13 and when you look at Revelation 17 eventually, they have something in common. They have crowns on their heads, okay? Usually depicting something at least similar to a monarchy, something similar to a tyrannical government system. But the lamb-like beast that comes out of the earth that we believe represents America doesn't wear a crown. Kind of interesting there. That's because we are all about being a nation without a king. We are a nation that is set up when we established our independence and our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. We were setting up walls. We were setting up our defenses against tyranny ever trying to creep its way in. Okay? And I believe our founding fathers did an amazing job at that. All right? So the power is designed to go to the people. Okay? Now, that being said, let me read to you out of Revelation 13, verse 14, a description of the lamb-like beasts and how it goes about. Now, no doubt about it. Yes, it does exercise all the authority of the beast before it. I get that. But I believe there might be a hint here as to what door tyranny comes in from. Okay, check this out. Verse 14. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which it was given him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. Did you catch it? I'm going to do it again. Okay, watch. Watch carefully. Telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. It's easy to miss because in other translations, it actually uses the word he orders the people to set up an image or to make a statue or something along those lines. Some other translations have that kind of wording. I believe the NSB is very, very accurate on this one because that Greek word, lego, is used more to depict an influencing type of nature. All right? So in other words, you have a beast not wearing a crown. The power is really for the people. But, okay, so now we're already discovering the power, that the tyranny may not come flowing in from the top. But those at the top apparently tell the people or influence the people in some way, shape, or form to set up that image of the beast before it, which was tyrannical. Okay? So, that being said, all the more reason why the people need to be not just on their guard, and because being on the guard almost even depicts a stagnation. Okay, the people need not to put all of their hope in the Constitution merely. Okay, the Constitution can only hold back the winds of tyranny so long. Okay, eventually tyranny will find loopholes into it. All right, but I believe Revelation 13 points to the loophole. It says the people basically are influenced or deceived and inspired to set up tyranny on their own. All the reason why, again, now I'll finally say it, the people must not be stagnant. Okay, stagnation allows sin to rise. Okay? Remember this unchecked sin concept. All right? And basically those at the top basically say, hey, here's power. Yeah, make an image. All right? Boom. And you have that combination. Sin plus power equals tyranny. All right? You can decide whether I'm off my rocker on this stuff or not. Okay? Tyranny's dangerous. It's bad whether it comes from the top or whether it comes from the people. But the difference is, if it's to come from the people, there's a sense of control on our part. And in other words, if it's on us, then we are responsible to keep it at bay. And I believe some of the most important words, yes, absolutely, stand upon the Constitution, stand for liberty, stand for freedom, and these kind of things, but don't just stand, move. Okay? Just as the pastor said to the pilgrims before leaving, saying, keep following the Lord. Okay? And never get satisfied with how far the Lord has led you, because he probably wants to lead you further. All right? And if you keep moving, it's hard for the mold of tyranny to grow on you. And it's hard for sin to fester and grow within us, because God wants us to partake of the divine nature. He's leading us on a sanctificational journey. And so, friends, yes, I get it. Prophecy does depict, but yeah, I mean, can we hold back tyranny on a whole nation? I get it. It eventually comes about, but let it not come from you or I. Okay? As far as we're concerned, it's one thing for us to practice our religious liberty, and to maintain our conscience and to follow in the truths that we believe. Absolutely. But friends, it is so crucial that even though we follow in what we believe, let me just say it this way, even if we hold all the right truths, that does not mean that the devil can't get to us. It does not mean that we're not in danger of becoming the very thing that we're trying to run away from. And the only safeguard against that is to keep following the Lord as he desires to follow us, lead us further. So the question I encourage us to ask today to ourselves is the Lord wanting me to is he leading me today? And where is he leading me? And better than ask yourself, ask God. Go to your knees today and say, Lord, where are you leading me today? Forgive me if I have stayed put. Forgive me if I've becoming stagnant. But God, may I rise and follow the Lamb wherever he goes. God bless you all. Blessings on this week.